Hey, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Megan and I'm on YouTube to share my journey as an author. I've published several videos on the fantasy novel that I'm writing. It's called The First Forge, so I will drop some of those links in the description below just in case you want a little bit of context before you watch this video. I'm not going to share too much of the general plot since I've already covered that. Rather, in this video, I'm focusing specifically on the development of the romantic relationship between my female and male protagonists. This is a slow burn romance, and this is my first time writing something like this. So I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I'm going to share how I'm doing it, mistakes that I've made along the way, and how I'm trying to improve those things. My female protagonist is named Veda. She's 30 years old and she's human. The male protagonist is Soren. He's very old. I haven't decided on an exact age yet, but we're probably talking about centuries. And he is of a magical race that shifts between bird form and a human-like form. When I started outlining The First Forge, my plan was to make it an enemies to lovers story because I love reading romances like that. And for a while, I referred to this as a romantasy, fantasy romance. Here's the first thing I got wrong. Veda and Soren don't meet until more than 25% of the way through the book. They don't meet until the beginning of Act 2, and I follow the 4-act structure. So this means that they have to go from hating each other to liking/loving each other in less than 75% of the book. And they really have to warm up to each other because, as I talked about in this video, I always planned on incorporating a lot of heat in this manuscript. Here's the problem. Less than 75% of this book, with the way I had it planned, it was not enough to transform their relationship that much. But that didn't stop me from trying to force it anyway. Sure enough, I asked a lovely friend of mine, shout out to Holly, if she would read the first half of the manuscript. And everything was good until she got to the midpoint where Veda and Soren's relationship took a very abrupt turn. Too abrupt. So remember, they meet a little more than 25% of the way through the book. And at the 50% mark, I already had them basically saying that they really liked / had feelings for each other. That transformation happened in less than 25% of the book. The feedback that I got was along the lines of, this happened super fast, I didn't feel connected to Soren yet, we don't know him well enough yet. So basically, I rushed it. And when I went back and really thought about her feedback, and I reread Acts 1 and 2, and really tried to look at it from a high level, I realized that she was 1000% right. And I was like, what was I thinking? Why did I think I could pull this off in such a short amount of time? I was so excited to get to the good stuff, like the naughty stuff, that I forgot that what makes the good stuff so good is all of the anticipation and the suspense that build leading up to it. In fact, I've told my husband before when I was reading like spicy romance that what I personally love about smut or spicy romance, it's not just the dirty parts. The reason I like those books so much is because the romance is happening between two characters who, for a while you're watching their relationship slowly develop and you're like, just do it already. So when they do finally come together, it's electric. I skipped all of that. In terms of the timeline, I ended up slowing their relationship way down. And now I'm still hammering out the details, but it looks like Veda and Soren won't, really get together until probably closer to the end of Act 3, if not the beginning of Act 4. I realized that I really need that time to allow them to start to like each other. And that brings me to the next mistake that I made. I said that I wanted this to be an enemies to lovers story, but here's the thing. When Veda and Soren first meet at the beginning of Act 2, they don't like each other, but I also don't think that I can honestly call them enemies. Here's why. Veda travels to the territory where Soren lives, and she's suspicious of these creatures, these races. She thinks they're up to no good, and they feel the same way about her. But they are technically still allies, and they kind of have to cooperate, even if it's just for the sake of maintaining the illusion of cooperation. They are not full-blown, outright established enemies. But once again, that didn't stop me from trying to force it. I caught this one fairly quickly though, and here's what I learned. No, I'm not going to call this enemies to lovers because that doesn't feel honest. I do think I can say it's a hate hate to love romance. And since there's no longer that specific hurdle that they need to overcome, since they're not like sworn enemies, I learned that I needed to introduce conflict and tension in another way. That brings me to my next point. Again, my friend Holly pointed this out. I don't remember her exact words, but she mentioned not feeling connected enough to Soren, not knowing him enough. So when he and Veda do start to get closer, something was missing. I've developed Veda's character so much. I did a ton of work on her before and during the writing process. I did that way less with Soren. I skipped a big step here, and I realize that now. I learned that I gave the reader reasons to root for Veda, reasons for her to overcome her demons and find love, but I don't think I've adequately done that for Soren. I don't think that with the way I had it, the reader wouldn't even really know what his demons are. So what I'm working on now at the time of this recording is fleshing out Soren's character a lot more. His goals, his motivation, more of his past, his demons, what he's trying to achieve and what's stopping him, everything I did for Veda. I'm going back to his character arc, which I talk about in this video, and building it out a lot more. If I take a step back, I think I was looking at it like this. Veda goes on this journey, she goes through this transformation, and at the end of the road is this romance with Soren. That's incorrect, and it's incomplete. Rather, Veda experiences this transformation, Soren experiences a transformation, and along the way, they find new ways to connect and grow closer, and at the end of the rainbow is love. While on this topic of character arcs, another big lesson I learned here is that their character arcs, I don't want to say they run parallel to each other, but I'm kind of looking at it like this. Veda's journey looks like this. Soren's journey looks like this. While they're both doing this, there have to be touch points, plot points that allow them to get closer, where they intersect. That brings me to something I'm still struggling with a little bit. I think, I guess this is pacing. Honestly, I'm not sure what to call it. This is book 1 of what I plan to make a series. And again, their relationship only covers, it spans less than 75% of this book. Every relationship, romantic or otherwise, has to have tension and conflict. And I feel like, especially in the beginning of their relationship, there should be a ton of tension. What I'm still trying to understand is, in the latter half of the book, this is pacing, I guess. I want to make sure they're getting closer, but still having to overcome obstacles. But overall, as the book progresses, I feel like things should be getting better, not worse for them. So that means that the good has to outweigh the bad. The reason this is an issue for me is because I know that if I'm not careful, I will just cram in scenes that look like conflict but aren't actually vital to the story or the characters' transformations, and I need to be more strategic than that. I do think if I can adequately build out Soren's character and his transformation, I hope this will get a lot easier. So that's my goal at the moment, and I think I'm just hoping that the rest will come naturally and kind of like fall into place. All this time, I've been calling the first forge romantasy or fantasy romance. I know there's debate around these labels, but you get the idea. I've actually stopped calling it that, and I'm just calling it fantasy for now. I don't think there's enough romance in this first book to accurately call it a romantasy. Now in book 2, when their relationship is much more established and they get a lot more like screen time together, that will be a different story. I'm really trying to stay true to my characters and let their development tell me where to go with the plot rather than forcing the plot on them. Holly again was so right about how I was rushing their relationship. And if I'm staying true to Soren and Veda, who are both very strong-willed, they never get that close that fast. Even if the feelings are there, they would never act on them that quickly. Their egos will get in the way for a little while. I planned on making this book so spicy, and I could, but even I don't enjoy reading books like that personally. Again, I love smut or spice so much because of the tension leading up to it. If you remove that tension, I'm bored. I don't like spice at that point. No shade if you do, these are just my personal preferences as a reader. So in my case, I want to write a love story. I want to write a story that's full of magic and demons and triumph. And, along the way, these two very stubborn characters fall for each other. So that's where I'm at right now. If you didn't catch one of my last videos, the first draft of the first forge is done, and I'm currently in my first round of edits, which is proving very challenging for me. This is the longest book I've written, It's currently over 93,000 words, and I know there's still a lot missing, and I'm finding it super difficult to tackle it. Where I'm definitely a little weaker in the editing department is developmental editing, pacing, story arc, flow, stuff like that. And some of these concepts, I feel like they're so abstract that when you sit down, in front of your computer, sometimes you can feel what's missing. Like, as I've been reading through this again, I can tell when certain scenes or chapters go too fast. And I'll know, oh, I need to build this out more, or I need to add something there. So sometimes it's really easy to identify, but there are absolutely other times when I've read a chapter or a scene or an act, and I know something is wrong or missing, but I don't know what. And so I sit there and I just stare at it, and I'm like, I know this is weak. I know something's missing, but I don't know what it is. I'm very committed to this book. I do think it's my best writing, which is great. I think I've gotten better with every book I've written. I believe this is number 8. I counted last night. This should be my 8th manuscript. I'm so committed to it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to eventually hire a developmental editor, but ideally when I give it to them, it's in the best shape that I can possibly get it in. So I'm not in any hurry there. I know there's still a lot that I can do to make it better. And on that note, if you have any concrete tips for editing, especially in the fantasy genre, drop me a comment and let me know. Girlfriend's struggling. I've read a bunch of articles on this and watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and a lot of the advice is very generic, I guess. It's a lot of like, before you start editing, take a couple weeks off. Did that. Start with the big picture and then get more granular. Okay, and like these are tips that are very broad. I'm assuming so that they can apply to everybody, but in terms of tackling a complex story, I'm having such a hard time wrapping my mind around it. That's all I got for you today. As always, I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your engagement. So if you would be so kind as to give this video a thumbs up and let YouTube know that you liked it, I'd be very grateful. And again, drop me a comment, even if it's just to say hello. I always love hearing from you, and I'll catch you in the next video.